Welcome to Justice Insight Cam. Join us as we review factual police encounters documented by official body cameras. We look past the initial footage to evaluate the legal context, factual accuracy, and critical lessons within. Let us seek justice through clarity.
Let me see your papers right now.
Excuse me, I'm a licensed pharmacist. I work here.
I don't care what you claim to be. Show me your identification and proof of citizenship.
Officer, I'm an American citizen. I was born in Houston, Texas. This is harassment.
Officer Blake Morrison believed he was doing his job. An anonymous tip, that was it. Suspicious black woman working at a pharmacy. Possible identity theft. In his head, asking for ID was routine, and he expected immediate compliance. He had stopped countless people on nothing more than appearance. Never questioned, never challenged. But when he strode into Hayes Pharmacy on a bright Wednesday afternoon and demanded papers from the woman behind the counter, he made a disastrous miscalculation. Dr. Vanessa Mitchell, a licensed pharmacist with 15 years of experience who was born and raised in Houston, Texas, knew exactly what was happening. And when she refused his unlawful demand, citing the Fourth Amendment and her right to be free from unreasonable seizures, Officer Morrison made a chain of decisions that would cost the city of Phoenix $15.9 million. Before we continue, where are you watching from right now? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring even more truth to light. Morrison had been with the Phoenix Police Department for 7 years, working the Central City Precinct with a reputation for hard-nosed street enforcement. He had been named in 5 civilian complaints, each alleging racial profiling and constitutional violations, but none had resulted in meaningful discipline. His supervisors praised his proactive policing, his willingness to make stops that other officers might hesitate on. In reality, Morrison operated on the assumption that his badge gave him the authority to demand identification from anyone he deemed suspicious, that the Fourth Amendment's protections against unreasonable seizures didn't apply when he had a hunch. He had stopped dozens of black and brown people demanding papers, conducting searches, making arrests, and until that Wednesday afternoon, no one had challenged him on constitutional grounds. The call had come in at 2:34 p.m., anonymous complaint about Hayes Pharmacy, a small independent pharmacy in a diverse neighborhood. The caller claimed there was a black woman working there who might be using a stolen identity, possibly undocumented, suspicious behavior behind the counter. No specifics, no evidence, just vague accusations that should have been investigated properly before any action was taken. But Morrison didn't wait. He grabbed his partner, Officer Rachel Brennan, and headed to the pharmacy. Both officers activated their body cameras as they parked in front of the storefront at 3:07 p.m., the Arizona sun blazing overhead, creating harsh shadows on the pavement and perfect lighting for the cameras. Hayes Pharmacy sat in a small strip mall, a modest establishment with large windows displaying health and wellness posters. The afternoon heat shimmered off the asphalt, the temperature reading 104 degrees on the bank sign across the street. Inside, the air conditioning provided relief, and several customers browsed the aisles while 2 people waited at the pharmacy counter. Dr. Vanessa Mitchell was behind the elevated counter, her white pharmacist coat crisp and professional, her name tag clearly visible. Dr. Vanessa Mitchell, PharmD. She was processing a prescription for an elderly man, explaining dosage instructions with the patience and expertise that had earned her a loyal customer base over the past 8 years. Morrison's body camera captured his approach as he pushed through the glass door, the bell chiming softly. Brennan's camera provided a side angle, recording the interior, neatly organized shelves, a pharmacy counter at the back with separate drop-off and pick-up windows, health information pamphlets displayed on a rack, everything clean and professional. Morrison walked directly toward the pharmacy counter, his hand resting on his belt, his posture radiating authority and aggression. The afternoon sun streaming through the windows created perfect visibility, every detail captured in sharp clarity. "Excuse me," Morrison called out, his voice carrying across the small space and interrupting Vanessa mid-sentence. "I need to speak with you." He pointed directly at Vanessa, his gesture captured on both cameras. Vanessa finished explaining the prescription to the elderly man, maintaining her professional composure despite the interruption. "Have a great day, Mr. Patterson. Call us if you have any questions." She handed him his medication, watched him shuffle away with his walker, then turned to face Morrison. Brennan's camera captured her expression, composed, professional, a woman in her late 30s with natural hair, pulled back in a neat bun, wearing the white coat that clearly identified her as the pharmacist. "How can I help you, officer?" Morrison stepped closer to the counter, his camera recording his view as he approached, the pharmacy license and certifications visible on the wall behind Vanessa. "I need to see your identification and documentation, proving you're authorized to work in this country." The request hung in the air, captured on both body cameras and crystal-clear audio. The customers in the store stopped moving, conversations halting mid-sentence. The woman waiting at the pickup window took a step back, her face showing shock. Vanessa's expression shifted from professional courtesy to confusion, then to dawning realization of what was happening. "I'm sorry, what? Your identification and work authorization papers," Morrison repeated, his tone suggesting this was a routine request, his voice carrying the assumption that compliance was mandatory. "We've received a report that someone at this location may be working under a false identity. I need to verify your legal status." Vanessa's hands rested on the counter, her years of dealing with difficult situations and pharmacy work, helping her maintain composure even as anger began to rise. Both cameras captured her measured response, her voice steady. "Officer, I'm a licensed pharmacist. I work here. You can see my credentials on the wall behind me." She gestured to a framed pharmacy license clearly visible in the afternoon light, showing her name, license number, and the State of Arizona Board of Pharmacy seal, along with her Doctor of Pharmacy degree from Texas Southern University. "That doesn't verify your immigration status," Morrison said dismissively, his camera recording his own hand, waving away her credentials as if they meant nothing. "I need to see government-issued identification and proof of citizenship or legal residency now." The afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows illuminated every detail of the confrontation. Vanessa's jaw tightened, her voice remaining calm but taking on an edge of steel. "Officer, I'm an American citizen. I was born in Houston, Texas. I don't have to prove my citizenship to you without probable cause. What specific crime am I being accused of committing?" Morrison's face flushed slightly, the color change visible on Brennan's camera from the side, the bright interior lighting making every nuance clear. "You're not being accused of anything yet. This is a routine verification based on a complaint we received. If you have nothing to hide, you should have no problem showing me your papers." "Papers," Vanessa repeated the word, carrying historical weight that any Black American would understand. "Officer, this isn't 1950s Alabama. This isn't apartheid South Africa. This is America. And the Fourth Amendment protects me from unreasonable seizures, which includes being detained and forced to produce identification without reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Unless you can articulate a specific crime you suspect me of committing, you have no legal authority to demand my identification or my citizenship papers." Brennan shifted uncomfortably behind Morrison, her camera wavering slightly, recording her own feet shuffling on the tile floor. She recognized the constitutional issue immediately, had sat through enough training to know that demanding identification without reasonable suspicion violated the Fourth Amendment. Arizona had specific case law on this, had been through multiple lawsuits about immigration enforcement overreach, but she remained silent, unwilling to contradict her partner in front of civilians, unwilling to challenge the implicit assumption that black people were always subject to demands for papers. Should police officers be allowed to demand identification without reasonable suspicion? Comment below. This wasn't just about one pharmacist. This was about whether the Fourth Amendment protects all Americans equally, or whether looking a certain way is enough to justify being treated as suspicious. Morrison leaned against the counter, his camera recording his own hands as they gripped the edge. "Ma'am, I'm trying to be reasonable here. A complaint was filed. I'm required to investigate now. You can cooperate and show me your ID, or we can do this the hard way." The hard way. Vanessa's voice rose slightly, her professional composure cracking under the weight of what was happening. "Officer, what you're doing right now is racial profiling. You walked into my place of employment and immediately demanded papers without any probable cause, without any reasonable suspicion, without any legal justification whatsoever. The only thing you're basing this on is the color of my skin. That's not policing, that's harassment. The CCTV system captured the entire confrontation from multiple angles mounted throughout the store. 3 cameras covered different zones. One at the entrance showing Morrison and Brennan's arrival, one behind the cash register, providing a wide view of the sales floor and pharmacy counter, and one positioned above the pharmacy workspace, capturing the area behind the counter. The digital recording system installed after a robbery 2 years prior stored high definition footage with audio time-stamped and date-stamped on every frame. Morrison's camera captured him noticing the visible security cameras, his head tilting up toward the ceiling-mounted devices. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to cooperate," he said, his tone becoming more insistent. "They're recording everything," Vanessa said firmly, gesturing toward the security cameras. "Just like your body cameras are, this entire interaction is being documented. My workplace security system captures audio and video, and what it's recording is you disrupting my business based on nothing but an anonymous complaint and your own biases." Morrison straightened his posture, becoming more aggressive, his shadow falling across the counter in the bright afternoon light. "Final warning. Show me your identification and proof of citizenship, or you're going to be detained." "Detained for what?" Vanessa demanded, her hands now gripping the countered edge. "What crime have I committed? What reasonable suspicion do you have? You can't detain someone without reasonable suspicion. That's basic Fourth Amendment law, officer. Or did they skip that day at the academy?" Morrison's face went red, the flush captured clearly on Brennan's camera. He had been challenged before, but never like this. Never by someone who understood the law better than he did. Never by someone who refused to be intimidated. "You're obstructing an investigation," he said, his voice rising. "Obstructing what investigation?" Vanessa shot back. "There is no investigation. There's an anonymous complaint with no specifics, which doesn't create probable cause or reasonable suspicion of anything. What you're doing is called a pretextual stop, and it's unconstitutional when based solely on race, which is exactly what this is." Morrison moved toward the gate that led behind the pharmacy counter, his intention clear. Both body cameras and these overhead CCTV captured the movement from different perspectives. "I'm coming back there. If you won't cooperate, I'll verify your identity myself." "You absolutely are not," Vanessa said, moving to block the gate. "This is a restricted area. Only licensed pharmacy personnel are allowed back here. You have no warrant, no exigent circumstances, no consent. You're violating multiple laws right now, and I'm telling you to stop." Morrison reached for the gate latch, and Vanessa placed her hand on it from the other side, holding it closed. "Officer, I'm not resisting. I'm not obstructing. I'm exercising my Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. You need to leave, or you need to get a supervisor down here who understands constitutional law." "That's it," Morrison said, pulling out his handcuffs. "You're under arrest." "For what?" Vanessa's voice was loud now, clear, captured perfectly on both body cameras and the pharmacy security system. "For asserting my constitutional rights, for being black in my own workplace, for refusing an unlawful order." Morrison forced the gate open, using his weight against Vanessa's resistance, and Brennan's camera captured Vanessa stumbling backward, her hands coming up defensively. The CCTV camera above the pharmacy counter recorded the entire sequence from overhead, showing Morrison's aggressive entry in Vanessa's defensive posture. "You're under arrest for obstruction and failure to provide identification," Morrison said, grabbing Vanessa's arm roughly. "This is illegal," Vanessa said, trying to pull away, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. "I'm a United States citizen. I was born in Houston, Texas. My parents were born in Texas. My grandparents were born in Texas. You have no right to do this." Morrison spun her around, pulling her arms behind her back, his body camera recording his own perspective as he snapped handcuffs around her wrists. The metallic click echoed on both audio feeds, captured with perfect clarity. The CCTV footage showed customers throughout the store frozen in shock, watching the arrest unfold. One customer near the entrance stood with her hand over her mouth. Another backed away toward the door. "Officer Brennan, check her purse for identification." Morrison ordered his camera recording Vanessa's purse sitting on a shelf behind the pharmacy counter. Brennan hesitated, her camera recording her own reluctance, her feet not moving. "We don't have consent or a warrant," she said quietly. "She's under arrest. We have the right to search her belongings incident to arrest," Morrison replied, his voice hard. Brennan's camera recorded her walking slowly behind the counter, picking up Vanessa's purse with obvious reluctance, opening it. Her camera captured the contents: a wallet, car keys, a stethoscope, prescription pads, chapstick, nothing suspicious, nothing illegal. She opened the wallet and her camera captured a Texas driver's license with Vanessa's photo, clearly showing Vanessa Lynn Mitchell, Houston, Texas, DOB, March 15, 1986. A U.S. passport card showing the same information with the gold eagle emblem of the United States. The Social Security card. A DEA registration card showing her authorization to prescribe controlled substances. Credit cards, insurance cards, everything you would expect from a legitimate professional. "She's got a Texas driver's license and a passport card," Brennan said quietly, her voice captured on both cameras. "She's American, born in Houston, like she said." Morrison's grip on Vanessa's arm tightened, visible on his own body camera as he looked down at his hands. For a moment, doubt flickered across his face, captured in profile on Brennan's camera. He had arrested an American citizen for refusing to show papers she had no legal obligation to show. The realization was beginning to sink in. "Process her anyway," he said, his voice defensive. "She obstructed the investigation." "What investigation?" Vanessa's voice was clear despite the handcuffs, despite being held by Morrison. "You just admitted I'm American. You found my documentation showing I was born here. This entire stop was unlawful from the beginning. You violated my Fourth Amendment rights, and now you're doubling down with a false arrest." Morrison walked Vanessa toward the door, his camera recording the path through the pharmacy, past staring customers, past the young woman behind the cash register who was crying. Brennan's camera captured the scene from behind. Vanessa and handcuffs, her white pharmacist coat still on. Her name tag visible, being arrested in her own workplace. Their entrance camera recorded them exiting, the timestamp reading 3:24 p.m., 17 minutes after they had arrived. The afternoon sun was blinding as they exited into the parking lot, the heat hitting them like a physical force. Morrison's camera recorded him opening the back door of the patrol car. "Watch your head," he said, pushing Vanessa into the seat with more force than necessary. Vanessa sat in the back of the car, Morrison's camera recording her through the metal grate separating front and back. Sweat was already beating on her face from the heat of the enclosed vehicle. She took a deep breath, composed herself with visible effort, and looked directly at Morrison's body camera lens. "My name is Dr. Vanessa Lynn Mitchell. I am a licensed pharmacist and a United States citizen. I was born in Houston, Texas on March 15, 1986. I have never been arrested before. I have never committed a crime. Officer Blake Morrison, badge number 4729, entered my workplace and demanded that I produce citizenship papers without any probable cause or reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. When I cited the Fourth Amendment and refused his unlawful order, he arrested me. This is racial profiling. This is a violation of my constitutional rights. This is what happens when Black Americans are treated as suspicious simply for existing in their own country." The statement was captured in perfect clarity on Morrison's body camera. Every word preserved, time-stamped, geotagged. It would become the opening exhibit in the federal lawsuit that would dismantle Morrison's career and cost Phoenix millions. Brennan climbed into the passenger seat, her camera recording Morrison's profile as he sat in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, his jaw working. "Blake," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper, but still picked up by both microphones. "This is bad. She's right. We didn't have reasonable suspicion. The stop was unconstitutional, and we arrested her for asserting her rights. This is going to be a problem." "Drive," Morrison said, his voice tight. The journey to the precinct took 30 minutes through afternoon traffic. Both body cameras remained active, recording the drive. Morrison's camera showed the road ahead, the dashboard clock advancing. 3:42 p.m., 3:55 p.m., 4:08 p.m. Brennan's camera occasionally panned back to check on Vanessa, who sat in silence, her face turned toward the window. Sweat soaking through her white coat in the inadequately cooled back seat. At the station, they processed her for obstruction of justice and failure to provide identification. Morrison's camera recorded the booking officer's expression when he explained the arrest, the way his eyebrows shot up when he heard the details. "You arrested a pharmacist for not showing you ID?" the booking officer asked, his voice careful, his skepticism evident. "At her place of work, where her license is displayed on the wall." "She obstructed an investigation," Morrison said, his camera recording his own hands as they filled out the arrest report. "What investigation?" "We received a complaint about possible identity theft, and what evidence did you observe that supported the complaint?" Silence. Morrison's camera recorded his own pause, the way his pen stopped moving across the paper. "Did you have reasonable suspicion to demand ID?" the booking officer pressed, looking between Morrison and Brennan. "The complaint gave us reasonable suspicion," Morrison replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "An anonymous complaint with no specifics doesn't create reasonable suspicion," the booking officer said flatly. "You know that we've been sued over this before, multiple times." He looked at Brennan. "You know this is going to be a problem, right?" Brennan's camera recorded her nod, her voice quiet. "I know." They processed Vanessa anyway. Fingerprints, photos, a mugshot that would later be plastered across news websites and social media. Her pharmacy license number was run through databases showing a spotless record. Her name was run through criminal databases showing 0 arrests, 0 warrants, Zero anything. She was exactly who she said she was, a law-abiding professional with 15 years of service to her community. Vanessa was placed in a holding cell. Morrison's camera recording her being led away, her white coat wrinkled now, her professional demeanor maintained despite the humiliation. She didn't look back at Morrison, didn't acknowledge him, just walked with her shoulders straight to the cell. She was held for 7 hours before being released on her own recognizance. The charges: obstruction of justice and failure to provide identification during a lawful investigation. The arrest was public record. Her mugshot entered into the system, her professional reputation potentially damaged by association with criminal charges. But Vanessa Mitchell hadn't spent 15 years building her career to be intimidated by an illegal arrest. 5 days after her release, she walked into the offices of the American Civil Liberties Union of Arizona. The attorney who met with her, a man named David Ramos, with 20 years of experience in civil rights litigation, listened to her story with growing anger. When Vanessa finished, Ramos leaned forward, his elbows on his desk, the afternoon sun creating geometric patterns through the blinds. "Do you know what the Fourth Amendment protects?" he asked. Vanessa nodded. "It protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Being stopped and forced to show ID is a seizure under Fourth Amendment jurisprudence. It requires at minimum reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. An anonymous complaint without specific articulable facts doesn't create reasonable suspicion. What Officer Morrison did was textbook unconstitutional." "Exactly," Ramos said, already taking notes. "And when you asserted your rights, he arrested you for it. That's retaliation. That's deprivation of rights under color of law. And given that this happened because you're black, this is also about racial discrimination and selective enforcement." Ramos requested the body camera footage under Arizona's public records law. He also immediately contacted Hayes Pharmacy and obtained a copy of the complete CCTV footage from their security system. When everything arrived 3 weeks later, he watched every second. Both officers complete body camera recordings from arrival at the pharmacy through the booking process, plus all 3 angles from the security cameras. The footage was devastating to the city's case. The CCTV system provided perspectives the body cameras couldn't capture. Wide angles showing the entire store layout. Overhead views of Morrison's aggressive entry into the restricted pharmacy area. Clear footage of customer reactions throughout the store, and unobstructed audio from ceiling-mounted microphones that captured every word of the confrontation. The combined footage showed Vanessa calmly and accurately citing the Fourth Amendment, explaining why Morrison's demand was unlawful, or offering to have him speak with her supervisor or the pharmacy owner if he had legitimate concerns. It showed Morrison's aggressive escalation, his racial profiling, his unlawful entry into the restricted pharmacy area, his retaliatory arrest. It showed Brennan's clear reluctance and her quiet admission that they didn't have reasonable suspicion. The CCTV footage captured details the body cameras missed. Morrison glancing up at the security cameras, but proceeding anyway. Customers throughout the store witnessing the entire confrontation. The overhead view clearly showing Vanessa never physically resisted or obstructed. And it showed Vanessa's powerful statement in the back of the patrol car, her clear articulation of exactly what had been done to her and why. The criminal charges against Vanessa were dropped within 6 weeks. The prosecutor, after reviewing both the body camera footage and these CCTV recordings and consulting with her office's Civil Rights Division, declined to pursue the case. In her dismissal memo, she wrote, "The defendant correctly and repeatedly cited her Fourth Amendment rights. The investigating officer had no reasonable suspicion to demand identification, and the defendant had no legal obligation to provide it. The defendant's refusal was lawful." multiple camera angles from both police body cameras and the business security system confirmed the defendant never physically resisted or obstructed the officers. The subsequent arrest appears to be retaliatory in nature and potentially motivated by racial bias. All charges are dismissed, and this office recommends the matter be referred to Internal Affairs for investigation of the arresting officer. But dismissal wasn't enough, not remotely close. Ramos filed a federal civil rights lawsuit in the United States District Court for the District of Arizona. Dr. Prude, Vanessa Mitchell versus City of Phoenix. Officer Blake Morrison and Officer Rachel Brennan. The complaint alleged violations of the Fourth Amendment, false arrest, malicious prosecution, unlawful seizure, retaliation for exercising constitutional rights, selective enforcement based on race, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The city's initial response was insulting. They offered $25,000 to settle, barely enough to cover Vanessa's attorney fees, let alone compensate her for the violation and humiliation. Ramos refused immediately. "This case is going to trial," he told Vanessa during a strategy meeting in his office. "We have everything we need, body camera footage showing the entire encounter, the pharmacy security system footage providing multiple additional angles and perspectives. Your clear knowledge of the law and assertion of your rights. Morrison's admission that you were American after he arrested you. This is about establishing that being black in America doesn't mean you forfeit your Fourth Amendment rights, that police can't demand papers from people based on skin color, that there are real consequences for constitutional violations." The case went to trial, 21 months after Vanessa's arrest. The courtroom was packed every single day with civil liberties advocates, members of Phoenix's black community, pharmacy professionals who saw this as an attack on their entire profession, and national media who recognized this as a defining case about racial profiling and constitutional rights. The body camera footage was played on the trial's opening day, followed immediately by these CCTV recordings, setting the tone for everything that followed. The jury, 12 Arizonans of diverse backgrounds, watched multiple camera angles simultaneously on split screens. They watched Morrison walk into the pharmacy and immediately demand papers from Vanessa without any preamble or explanation. They watched Vanessa's professional response, her citation of the Fourth Amendment, her clear explanation of why his demand was unlawful. They watched Morrison's escalation, his physical entry into the restricted area, his aggressive arrest. The CCTV footage provided overhead views that made Morrison's aggression even more apparent, showed Vanessa's defensive posture, clearly captured the shock and fear on customers' faces throughout the store. They watched Brennan's hesitation and her discovery of Vanessa's American citizenship documents. They watched Vanessa's statement in the patrol car, her dignity maintained even in handcuffs. When the footage ended, you could have heard a pin drop in the courtroom. 3 jurors were visibly crying. The others looked angry, betrayed, shocked that this could happen in their city. Vanessa testified for 5 hours over 2 days. She explained her background, her education at Texas Southern University, her 15 years as a pharmacist, her service to the Phoenix community. She described the humiliation of being arrested at work in front of her customers and colleagues for asserting rights that every American supposedly possesses. She talked about the assumption of criminality that black professionals face every day, the exhaustion of constantly having to prove you belong. "I have 3 pharmacy degrees hanging on my wall," she told the jury, her voice steady but emotional. "I have a state license that requires background checks and continuing education. I've never been arrested. I've never committed a crime. But the moment Officer Morrison saw me, a black woman, he assumed I was there illegally. He didn't ask to speak to the owner. He didn't verify the complaint before acting. He just walked in and demanded papers like I was living in a police state. And when I cited the Fourth Amendment, when I asserted the rights that supposedly make America different, he arrested me for it. That's not policing, that's oppression. Ramos called Professor William Chen from Arizona State University's Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law as an expert witness. Professor Chen explained Fourth Amendment jurisprudence in clear terms. The Supreme Court has established that police may demand identification only when they have reasonable suspicion that a person is engaged in criminal activity. He testified, an anonymous tip without specific articulable facts does not create reasonable suspicion. Officer Morrison had no legal basis to demand Dr. Mitchell's identification. Her refusal was lawful. His arrest was unconstitutional. This is settled law, and any reasonable officer would know this. The defense tried to argue qualified immunity, claiming Morrison could have reasonably believed his actions were lawful. Ramos destroyed that defense methodically. Ladies and gentlemen, he told the jury in his closing argument, Dr. Mitchell told Officer Morrison he was violating the Fourth Amendment. She explained why. She cited case law principles that any first-year law student would understand. All of this is documented on multiple cameras from multiple angles. And he arrested her anyway, not because he believed he was right, but because he was angry that a black woman dared to tell him no. That's not a reasonable mistake. That's willful ignorance of constitutional rights. That's exactly what qualified immunity doesn't protect. The jury deliberated for 3 days. The wait was agonizing. Vanessa spent it praying, surrounded by family who had flown in from Texas, by colleagues from the pharmacy community, by activists who saw her case as a test of whether the Fourth Amendment meant anything for Black Americans. When the verdict came back, the courtroom filled within minutes. The jury foreman, a retired school teacher, stood to read, "Guilty on all counts." The room erupted. Vanessa collapsed into Ramos's arms, sobbing with relief and vindication. The damages phase lasted 2 weeks. The jury heard about Vanessa's panic attacks, her fear of police, her inability to work for months after the arrest. They heard from customers who stopped coming to Hayes Pharmacy because they were afraid of being associated with someone arrested. They heard from the pharmacy owner about the business lost, the reputation damaged, about the cost of providing the security footage that proved Vanessa's innocence. They heard from a psychiatrist about the particular trauma that Black professionals experience when their credentials mean nothing in the face of racial bias. They heard from an economist who calculated Vanessa's lost wages, the damage to her career trajectory, the cost of therapy, and legal defense. When the jury announced the damages, the courtroom exploded with cheers and tears. $8.4 million in compensatory damages for lost wages, emotional distress, reputational harm, and violation of constitutional rights. $7.5 million in punitive damages, calculated specifically to punish the city for allowing officers like Morrison to operate without training, oversight, or accountability. Total $15.9 million. The largest civil rights verdict in Arizona history. Morrison was terminated within hours. Brennan received a 2-month suspension and was reassigned to desk duty permanently. The Phoenix Police Department, under pressure from the Department of Justice, announced sweeping reforms, mandatory Fourth Amendment training with emphasis on reasonable suspicion standards, new policies prohibiting demands for identification without articulable, reasonable suspicion, body camera review protocols for all arrests involving constitutional challenges, and an independent monitor to review allegations of racial profiling. Vanessa used part of her settlement to establish the Fourth Amendment Defense Fund, providing free legal representation to others subjected to unlawful demands for identification. She became a national voice on racial profiling, testifying before Congress, speaking at law schools, sharing her story with anyone who would listen. The combined body camera and CCTV footage became required viewing in police me's across the country. a stark lesson in what happens when officers let racial bias override constitutional law. The case also sparked conversations about the importance of business security systems in documenting police interactions and protecting civil rights. And in Phoenix, Dr. Vanessa Mitchell's case became a landmark proof that the Fourth Amendment means something, that racial profiling has consequences, and that sometimes the most important thing you can say to power is simply no. If you believe that all Americans deserve Fourth Amendment protection regardless of race, that demanding papers without cause is unconstitutional, and that standing up for your rights should be celebrated, not punished, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Tomorrow we have another story of courage triumphing over injustice. Because the truth recorded on body cameras and security systems and vindicated in court reminds us that we the people grant power to government, not the other way.
Thanks for staying until the end. If this review offered a fresh viewpoint, please like, share, and subscribe to Justice Insight Cam. Stay alert, stay out of harm's way, and we will catch you next episode.